it's that time of day where we get to go and spend time with somebody that most of you have probably met 1 or 2 times before. But just in case you haven't, our next speaker is an avid fire starter, having co-founded initiatives like the Neurodiversity Education Academy, which is an online platform for providing awareness, education, and support for teachers, parents, and students on the topic of neurodiversity. She's also the co-founder of Shift Foundation, an organization for real-life learning and awareness based on collective action. And she's also established Community Rituals, a training and support platform to enable leaders to understand the language of rituals in communities. And on top of that, she's created the Community Alchemy program, an online learning and mastermind program for transformational leaders, NGOs, and community activators. And if you know her at all, you will have guessed that I'm talking about none other than BASE co-founder Lana Jelenjev, who is going to be conducting a lab session with us today, which is all about redesigning business as community, her favorite subject in all the world. So Lana, please take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, David. So like what was mentioned, this is going to be a lab, a laboratory. So I am not going to be doing a lot of, presentation. Actually, you will be doing the work. Everybody will be doing the work. And this concept around redesigning companies as communities has been so alive in me since last year, especially when the pandemic started. I know last year I co-wrote the Community Builders book with a friend of mine who I met only in LinkedIn, and I haven't met face to face at all up until now. And we co-wrote a book together, which is the Community Builder, Designing Communities for Change. And that has really opened a lot of conversations, not just within the nonprofit sector, which most of the work that I'm a part of, but also with organizations who started to say, okay, wait a minute, we need to rethink how we do business differently. And for those who have been here since this morning, we kept on emphasizing part of this new world or new way of doing business is really incorporating community. And this is why what we will be doing today is all about exploring what does this really mean to redesign companies as communities. So what I'll be doing is I'll be assigning you in in small groups. And within small groups, I will be asking certain prompts. Let me just share the Jamboard right now. I will be using this Jamboard, and I'm gonna share my screen for us to work on the different questions. So we'll first work with this question of what comes to mind when you think of spaces with community, and what emotions or feelings come up for you. And like I said, I'm going to be putting in people in the room. Let me just give myself and let's see. And like you'll be given 10 minutes within that small group to just share, what comes to mind when you think of spaces where there are community. And let me just, am I adding? Yes, there you go. And think of it also as emotions or even analogies or symbols that you can think of. So it's not just the words, but also think of metaphors or or symbols that comes up for you when you think of community. And let me see if I can then just put everybody in. So see you in 10 minutes. So Appeal, I'm gonna add you in a group. Assign you to Appeal. I'm going to assign you to a room.
I don't think everyone is able to join.
Yes, I'm looking at who doesn't have.
Let's move Chris to room 3 with Emilienne and Kilian.
Yes. Look at that. There we go.
And we have 4 people in, we have
Andrea.
Andrea in room 1 alone.
Yeah, I'm gonna move Andrea. Let's do Andrea to room 6.
And I think that's it.
There we go.
And I'm gonna stay here with you.
So, there's somebody coming.
Oh, yes, Bruno from, let's put gallery. Hello, Bruno, welcome. Feel free to unmute yourself and you can put your camera on as well if you want to. We just started a small exercise and everyone went in breakout rooms. So this why you see only us here.
Okay,
Hi, good
Gunnar,
afternoon.
I need to move Gunnar.
Good afternoon. Lana, we're going to move you to a room. You'll be in a room and the exercise is to talk about what comes to mind when you think of spaces with communities. But think about it in terms of emotions as well and feelings, symbols, not
Okay.
only words.
Okay. Okay.
There we go. There's a match.
I
put them in room 1.
Yeah, I see there are just 2 people there actually.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's perfect. How are you?
Any pause recording? Or
It's still recording. We're gonna cut it afterwards. I think it's simple than just to forget to click it.
Because it's too long also.
It's also too long. I hope I have enough space on my computer.
You have Orsi coming in.
Yeah, I just let her in. Maybe room 1
also.
Yeah.
Hi, Orsi. We're in breakout rooms right now. And the question is, what comes to mind when you think of spaces with community? And we'll be putting you in breakout room number 1.
Okay, thank you.
There you go.
Do you want me to keep time or to do something specific, Lana?
I have the timer on.
Happy so far?
Yes. You?
Yeah. I feel honestly very, very tired. My energy is going down, but I feel very happy.
Yeah, we're almost there. We're almost there. I just hope Mara's timing is good.
Yes. Yeah, it's the time difference makes it harder. Like with Stephen, we weren't able to see him. This is why we were like, I'm just gonna call her.
No, I was already talking to him. So let me see. Okay. I need to relax with Mara. That's the timing that I'm very much worried about. If
You want me to do something?
Maybe just email her to see you soon, and then put in the time.
Yeah, I'm gonna use the Zebras Unite.
Yeah, that's also the that I have.
When I was doing the breathing exercise, Bruno got scared. He came here. I wasn't able to follow it. I was actually holding him because I was like, Mama, what's wrong?
Yeah, I can imagine. But it was good, right?
Really good.
I
do want to do it afterwards.
Yeah, I really felt the feeling coldness around, So it's like, oh.
Yeah. Reply. What time does her session start? I'm checking now. 1 more hour to go.
Seeing the Jamboard is so nice.
Yeah. People are renovating here. So I'm going to mute myself. Then it's good. I'm going to mute myself.
I like Anel's icon of coffee.
I'm giving her my phone number in case of something.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Everyone is renovating now. It's insane. I think I have like 4 neighbors renovating in the same time.
At least yesterday, our neighbor was the one doing the drilling. He did it yesterday. So
I'm gonna, how many minutes do you still have?
2 minutes.
I'm gonna grab some water.
Yeah.
The coffee, I'm away. If you go to reactions, you have the option to take it from there and place it. Interesting to see fear there.
Yeah.
Hello, Sarah.
Hey, I'm back.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, it's so fun, so good. Thank you so much for organizing.
Pleasure.
There you go. People are coming back, and let's just take a moment of pause to look at what came up for the group. There is fear though, so I'm curious from which group came that from, or if you would like to share what it is about.
Sure, that first one, Lana, is ours. Me,
Okay.
Steffi, and Stephen. And after we filled in a bunch of the ones you see in the blue area, we discussed some of the things people may be struggling with. And so fear was the first thing that came up.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. And there's also something around elevating others and holistic, holding hands. So nice emotions, if I think about a memory of me being in community and feeling myself with those emotions, I definitely have a lot of all these words that you've emphasized here. Now, we'll go to what's the opposite? What comes to mind when you think of spaces without community? What emotions, feelings, thoughts come up for you? And again, we will be doing this in the small group. So we'll be deepening the time that you have with this small group. And again, another 10 minutes to explore what, and I'm gonna add this one, what comes to mind when you think of spaces without community?
I was about to do exactly what you did. David, you're here? Small break, probably.
Break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, the biggest issue that I have is that I actually learned how to stand, but now I feel my back. I really feel my back.
Yeah.
My cousin just showed me she had to hospitalize her father
Oh.
when she got home. He has COVID, and it seems he's really weak.
Oh no.
Oh, he's almost 89. So
That's also the challenge. Huh?
yeah.
Hope they don't have to intubate.
It seems he's weak for not eating, and he can't eat and drink, but his lungs are good. So that's
Back.
hello.
Am I messing up your groups by not joining?
No, it's okay. There was 4 in that group, so
Okay. My beautiful new super sensitive camera is a bit of a pain in the ass when the sun's at this angle.
oh, it's too bright.
It is actually quite bright, and it's
Yeah.
yeah.
I can't get it to stop. Yeah, you see, it doesn't matter what I do, those things just don't go away.
Your camera is too smart.
Yeah, it's too smart for me. That's the problem, I think. I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, oh well. Back to the closed curtains.
Five more minutes. This is just the part that's, you don't get to be in the conversation.
You do need a break because we are doing this the entire day. We do need a small break. Oh, where's David? We lost him.
Probably fixing it. No problem. No, he went to his group. So hopefully the grouping that I made is interesting. What I think would be interesting to put together.
I'm curious, what groups did you do? So nice to see Douglas.
Yes, I talked to him.
Okay. And
No, he still has reservations.
about this?
Huh?
About what?
Zebras.
Ah, we do need a chat about that.
Yeah.
It's totally different discussion, not the time, not the place. But he did make a couple of good points in the last meeting. Like really
shared, yeah. Shared.
Again, I'm not gonna start. I was about to start, but I'm not gonna start now. Really good things, but also things that needs to be discussed.
Yeah. But last minute.
I'm so proud of my sis.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
Wasn't it?
Yeah. Tell her she needs
A the problem with the microphone when she's dancing, it moves, like it doesn't.
Yeah, that's why she needs the clip.
They have the clip, but it's not working. I don't remember exactly what was the reason, but she has one with a clip.
Yeah. So it's easier for her to move and
Fake communities. I'm really curious about that.
bring them in. Yeah.
New Hampshire, that's in US, right? Oh, there's Chris. Isn't that Chris?
Yeah. There you go. So I'm curious, there are some words that are popping up, like silos. Who share the silos?
I think we did.
Yes, can you speak more about it?
Yeah, so this idea of working in silos, working alone, and probably the places we recently heard about silos is in, on Facebook, for example, that you are by algorithms put into silos, and it could feel like a community, but it's not. It's a fake community because you're not actually together, but you're just in these groups, but still alone. So
So is that also how the fake communities
yeah,
was
that
added
goes
in?
together with with the silos.
Thank you. And there's also the loss and the sorrow. And anyone from that group who would like to speak to those words?
Well, I think we put in loss, and there was so much change, and I know for myself when 2020 hit, I was on the road pretty much 100% of the time before that. So I was all of a sudden sitting at my dining room table, and there were no people there. It was my family, but I wasn't able to meet people, and I'm someone who gets energy from being in a room or wherever with other people. So not being able to get that physical energy, it took a long time to be able to make the connection. So there was a lot of loss.
Yeah, thank you. And this is also something that we need to share. I know Stephen and I, we worked on a program on bringing a happier team home. And a lot of what was shared within the team that he facilitated it to was really a lot of grief that they've experienced over the past few months. And this is now the next part. And for this part, I'd like for us to voice it out within the group, and not really getting into smaller groups. In what ways do we experience the feelings, the thoughts, the emotions, the metaphors that we had indicated here? Yeah, the first one and the second one. In what ways do we see it within the organizations that we're part of? I'm curious, like, in what ways do you experience community in the organization that you're part of right now? Andrea.
I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but I think, for example, communication is a very good sign of seeing whether there is or there isn't community. So how people interact with each other, whether we ask each other how we are doing. So if there's anything other than a transactional conversation, for me, that's a big sign whether there is community or there isn't.
Yeah, definitely. Communication is one big indicator. Stephen. You're muted, Stephen.
Also what's important, I think, with groups is belonging cues. And belonging cues are this cue that you feel that you are part of this group, you're safe here, it is safe to contribute, you have a future here. And that's really important within organizations. And it's not something that happens just once and then you take it for granted. Like, you don't get married and just say, I love you to your partner on the day you get married and then hope that works for the next 40, 50 years and you don't need to say it again. So yeah, so those belonging cues have to happen constantly over and over and over and over again. And they can come from what we just talked about, communication, those small little touches, the hugs, you know, the checking ins and all that kind of stuff. They're vitally important for feeling that sense of everybody, it belongs. Everybody's voice is allowed.
Thank you, Stephen. And in what's this? In the space of belonging, if you're interested in diving deeper, there's a book by Tokopa Turner, which is called Belonging, and it's one of the a highly recommended books when you're thinking of exploring belonging. I see Douglas. Yes.
So one thing that comes to mind for me is that in this online virtual community age, some people who seem to think they're really great facilitators, or that it's a skill set that they can just choose to have, are not as good as they think. And it's really important. This is how I met Lana, is that we were in an organizational environment and somebody was facilitating, and it was just fake facilitating, fake community. And Lana intervened and just said, oh, slow down. Who are we? What are we doing here? Like, let's be real. And like, just through the interwebs, I felt this connection and contact. And so that's two things, the good and the bad, all wrapped in one little anecdote.
Thank you, Douglas. Anyone else have really felt that pull of community from the organization that you're part of for the past few months, or very recently? I know in my with my husband's work, they've been sending out presents for the team during the past 18 months, and one of the present was even a t-shirt. So during the football season, so he had, well, not a sweatshirt, an orange sweatshirt, so very much into the team spirit of the football season. So they got that one. And it's not just about the gifts, but it's also about the message, like what was shared about the communication that was also put in there. Or one of our partners, Infi, last year has shared how they pivoted to adjusting working from home by asking individually what it is that they would need to be able to work from home successfully. And of course, different person have different needs. From I would just have to have a good table, or I would like to have a nice chair, or someone was given very comfortable slippers. And so it was very different gifts that they've gotten from their employees, and they matched it. What was shared, they matched it with that gift, mainly because they wanted them to feel comfortable working from home. And that was, for us, when we heard that, as Danielle was sharing that was also one of the things that for us was like, oh, this is remarkable that we can go to that level and not just say, oh, okay, everybody just do this. Any other best practices that you've noticed of places that you've worked for or been with, or clients that have shown community? Sarah, go.
What I've seen, to come back to the fake communities, what I've seen a lot in the online world is this idea of creating a community, because it's just the fancy thing we do right now. And then instead of focusing on the community, the people in the community, the focus is on scaling the community.
Yeah.
We got to be as big as possible, and that's how we have impact. And by doing that, forgetting about the people who are actually in the community. And then these are the communities that don't work, because then people don't feel heard and seen anymore.
And if I can add my 2 cents to that, you're so right, Sarah. And I think the main issue is the purpose. Those communities are created with the purpose to sell. What we were discussing in the first session is that they say customer centric, but it's actually sales centric. Let's create this artificial community, so I have a pool of prospects I can start sharing further. It's not about co-creating or about sharing knowledge and see what where can we get from there? I do apologize for the noise. Working from home, neighbors are moving and renovating. So I do
Don't
apologize
hear
for that.
anything.
That is
But this is also one of the things why it's important to distinguish, are we really building a community or are we building an audience space? And the term community has, again, with the use of Facebook and groups, it became synonymous to community, and social marketing became also community. And this is also why, for me, within the work that I do, I always emphasize on we need to have a shared definition of what community means before we get into creating a community strategy, for example. And for most of the organizations that I've been in, they mix those two, this idea of creating an audience for their business as compared to really looking at how do I build or design communities in the first place. Which brings me to the other question of, if you think of organizations, perhaps not where you're part of, but organizations that you've heard about, what are the practices that they do that really puts you out and say, oh, that's definitely not community practice? Rick.
Well, to piggyback on what Andrea said, anything transactional now just stands out so much. And one of the things I'm most grateful for during this pandemic is that we had some time to really see what felt good and what didn't, because I know that sometimes being busy working and running businesses and families sometimes blinds us to quality, value, core values, as Alan brought up earlier. There are a lot of things that we need to look at to find alignment, and sometimes being too busy doesn't allow that. But right now, transactional communication, behavior, anything that feels like you're being sold or pushed is definitely a turnoff.
Yeah, the transactionalism is very much a big thing. Stephen. There was someone else.
That was me, Lana. I just wanted to add quickly to what Rick was sharing. So I was thinking about how an example of this transactional system is how companies manage performance and end up rewarding individuals more for short-term goals. And as such, there's no incentive for people to really connect with each other and really build those relationships that are needed for communities to form, even within organizations. Forget with your users. So that's one thing that really comes in the way of building community. So I just wanted to share that example. Sorry, Stephen, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're all good. Thanks, Kapil. Yeah, you know what? I'm thinking now when it comes to organizations, any of those employees that are on 0 hours contracts, for the likes of companies like, and we know the names of all those companies that have people don't feel they're a part of the company, but they're making money for the company, but they get none of the benefits of being with the company. They don't feel they're part of any community in the organization of the company because they're just, somebody who's somehow bringing in the money or whatever, but they've got no benefits whatsoever. Nobody really cares for them as a human. And I think I've seen lots of that begin to happen within the working space, where 0 hours contracts is becoming very popular. And it happened over here, sadly, in Ireland, where a cyclist for one of those companies actually was killed in a traffic accident here in Dublin. And this is a huge $1 billion organization, but the people of Dublin had the crowdfund to get his body repatriated to his own country. And I think when we enter that sphere, we're certainly moving very far away from the idea of what community should be.
Well, I definitely agree with you with that and I would like to add in what Tom shared a while ago with the importance of the source and how organizations respond to creating this community is also a reflection of the source. For us as founders, this might also be a question for us as, how do we what are our thoughts around community in the first place, and how are we creating community within the teams, within the work that we're doing? Andrea, you have your hand.
Yeah, this source question, I find it very interesting because we've been talking a little bit about how individualistic we are right now, and the community is kind of left behind in some ways in the modern Western society. And so I'm trying to look at it in a way. I understand that there is a source, but I also try to look at things in a way that we as a team, how can we function better? And then I wouldn't only pinpoint out one person that it's your fault. It's more about how can we interact better, because it might not be only one human being or one specific source. It might be just how we understand each other. So it goes back to communication. And another thing I just wanted to say, but I think that's not really, it's not the sign of what is going wrong, but maybe a sign that something is going wrong when you see that in a company, the fluctuation is very high. I think that's a big sign of not having a strong community for any reason. It might not be because the people are not great. It might be that people don't get the right wage, but still, for some reason, they don't stay for long enough.
Yes. Yeah, when you see organizations with high turnover, that's when you also have to think of, oh, why is that? What is within the company culture that makes people want to leave? And I know there's also some things that Lucy has indicated here. The toxic environments, especially bullying, is definitely a red sign within organizations. Would you want to speak more about this, Lucy?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I can say really, but other than, I am now kind of outside, but work with a lot of companies of all sizes, and I'm always quite surprised by how people treat each other, actually, and perhaps it reflects the culture of the company more widely, which develops as it grows. So I think there's lots of points at which that can be changed, but it's certainly, you can be made to feel like a real outsider if that kind of culture is accepted, and if that kind of toxic behavior, sort of bullying behavior, is allowed or not noticed or not dealt with in the right way. I think that's something that just completely kills community.
Yeah. And this is something that and I've added it in the Jamboard. This is something that is part of the Community Builders workbook. Just a way for us to look at, how can we move from transactionalism to invite more of a transformational interaction engagement within community. And the first thing that I've indicated here is about the vision, of looking at when you're looking at the vision of an organization, is it for mutual gain or is it integrated? Meaning, are the voices of those that need to be part of the decision making, part of the mission, heard, and also that they have taken part in creating this vision. Another is, of course, leadership. Is it one way or is it distributed? We have now quite a lot of programs that talks about the importance of distributing power within organizations. So it might be a question also of, how is power distributed? And then when you think of member or team engagement, is it because of the stick, or is it because of the carrot, or is it because there's really a commitment? That's part in that is ingrained already within the culture of the organization. And when it comes to communication, which is something that we've been talking about, is it very closed or is it open? And the kind of relationship that we promote, is it supportive, or is it now moving also towards interdependence? So there's something about, supporting each other, but it's even more powerful when we can bring each other into an interdependent state. And then time, how do we see time within the communities? Is it short term only, or is it in the long term. I love adding in long-termism when it comes to creating strategies. How would our decisions, the 7-generational thinking, how would our decisions now affect 7 generations ahead of us? And if we really sink into that practice, there will be quite a lot of changes that we would be doing with how we interact, with how we engage in our business. And of course, the outcomes, are the outcomes that we're looking for selective wins, or is it really about systemic change? And this is just one way to explore this idea of, are we really building an audience, or are we building a community in the first place? And what I would like to invite everyone is, for the last 10, for some more minutes, another 10 minutes, is for you to think of what are concrete practices that we can do as as leaders, as founders, when it comes to vision, when it comes to leadership, when it comes to the teams, and in looking at it from that lens of redesigning companies as communities. So very concrete, practices that that you can think of. Sarah, I see your hand. Do you want to, before I put you in breakout rooms?
Okay, I can ask later.
Okay, so I'm gonna put everyone in breakout rooms. Let me see, where is the room right now? There you go, and see you after 10 minutes. So we have, a lot of recommendations here. So who would want to just share, from each one, from the vision, from the leadership, or from the teams, what came up for you in your small group?
What is the definition of community, and the different expectations that people can have, and to be really clear about what everyone wants from a particular community, because there could be such a wide variety of meanings attached to the word community and what they're doing for people.
Yeah, definitely having a shared operational definition of community is important. How about when it comes to leadership? I would like to share what came up in your group.
I'd like to say something on that. Not that my whole group agreed with me, but the one thing that kind of strikes me when you start talking about the difference or the transformation of companies to communities is the role of leadership. If communities can be seen of people coming together because they share values, or they share a location, or they share an interest set or a purpose, what role does leadership even play in that? And therefore, do we actually even need it?
And I would go back to our session on the source a while ago, right? That the creative field is a mirror of the source. So how are we reflecting that back? And then the last one on teams. What came up for your group? Rick.
Actually, Lana, I want to go back to leaders for a minute, because
Okay.
in our group, Stephen's experience was that there were too many decisions being made, but Steffi worked in a company where the leaders never made any decisions. So that prompted us to put right decisioning in there. There needs to be some accountability on both sides, that as leaders, we shouldn't just make decisions all day. Maybe there's a cooperative or a collaborative medium. And then as leaders, we also need to know when to make decisions when we sometimes don't. So very interesting dichotomy in that room.
Yeah, there's a very appropriate article around decision making that I would like to share with everyone after this. It's all about the type of decisions that we make. And I'm very new to sociocracy as a principle, yet I'm very drawn to it already. Wherein it really takes in a practice of, okay, how are we making the voices that needs to be heard in this in the decision making space. So if you're interested in sociocracy, do check it out. But I'll also share the link here in terms of the different types of decisions that that we make within organizations. And last one, the teams. who would like to share about what came up for you within the teams? Sarah?
Yes, Lana, this kind of ties into the question I was going to ask before. It's like we have trained people in society to be followers and to just, not be empowered, that I think now we really can't just say, okay, now you're empowered, please, step up and build communities. We really need to help them through that process. And what Laurence and I were talking about is like, how do we do that? And it's small things where you really make them understand that you're listening and that there's a way to participate, maybe first anonymously to give your opinions, but we can't just expect for people to say, yes, more power to us. It's almost like we need to retrain them to take the power.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, definitely. There's quite a lot of unlearning process that needs to be done. And we've shared that a while ago of, there's certain things that we needed to decompose. And Killian was really, adamant that there are things that we drop already. And probably that's part of the leadership of looking at which systems need to be changed and then how to motivate people to be part of that, be part of that change. And I just want to, to just give as a last bit of and I'm gonna just present this. This came from the work of Michel Bachmann, and he has this article, and this is also the reason why I like to think of redesigning companies as communities, is to first start with the mindset of who, start with who are we designing communities for? Who are we designing companies for? And I believe that the why is a good story, but the who is the lived experience. And if we can really tap into who, then we can redesign companies in such a way that benefits all the stakeholders, not just our teams, but also our clients and everyone that's involved within the company. So I do hope it gives you some food for thought, and I'll be putting on some of the links here.
Thank you very much, Lana.